Hi class, here is a short little demonstration on how to fill out your periodontal probing chart. So once you're in the patient's chart, so I have selected Dexter, you're going to click on perio. When you click on perio, that is going to bring you to your periodontal chart where you're going to document the periodontal depth, your gingival recession, any furcation involvement, if there is any bleeding that is registering, or any type of suppuration. So this is what the chart looks like. Couple things is you always want to make sure that the teeth that are not in the mouth is highlighted in red. And this will automatically happen if you've already done your EagleSoft charting. But say you didn't do your EagleSoft charting and say the patient is missing number 1 or number 5. What you want to do is you want to highlight on the tooth that's missing, and you're going to see the red box around it. You're going to right click and you're going to mark the tooth as missing. When you do that, you're going to notice that the tooth is red, which means that this tooth will not be probed in the mouth. If you're like, oh, I didn't mean to, remove that tooth, you can also highlight that, right click, and then restore tooth, and then it will go back to black. So if it's red, it won't record. If it's black, it will record. So you always want to make sure that the teeth that are missing are in red. So I'm just going to say number 5 is missing and number 12 is missing. I'm going to say number 21 is missing and number 28 is missing. So now what I'm going to do is determine my sequence. So down here on the right side, you're going to see process. And if you click on this box, you're going to see different types of sequences that you can choose from. The most common one that you're going to see is the one that defaults to EagleSoft, number 1 to 16, 16 to 1, 32 to 17, and then 17 to 32. So once you click on that, your box is going to start on number 1 distal buccal, and you're going to see a blue box on that distal buccal. And remember, each tooth is going to have 6 readings, okay? Now, I'm going to be documenting the periodontal depth. So I am going to be clicking on the PD, okay? The GM is for gingival margin. This is to document your recession. Your FG, this is going to be for your furcations. Your MOB is mobility. And then the MGJ is your width of attachment, which we are not going to be documenting. So I'm going to go back to PD because I want to get the periodontal pockets and the depths. It's going to default me to the distal buccal of number 1, and now I'm going to do my readings. So I try to, when I'm probing, I try to keep a minimum of 6 readings in my head. Probings can take a while, so kind of getting into that habit of trying to keep as many readings in your head as possible. So I'm going to say 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. And as you can see, it just follows it. Did you see that it skipped number 5? So I'm just going to keep this. Now it's going to skip number 12. Okay, now, did you see what happened? Right when I was done with the distal buccal of number 16, it dropped down to 16 lingual. So now I'm going to be probing number 16 distal lingual. And now I'm going to be wrapping around on the linguals. So now you're going to notice skipped 12. So it's going to follow where you go. Let's put a couple 4s in here. You're going to notice that anything above 3 is going to turn red. And now you're going to notice that now we're going to go down to 32. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and put my readings in. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. And then you're going to notice that it goes to the lingual of 17. Okay, so it's automatically going to default. Okay, so now I've completed my full mouth periodontal probe. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to determine if there's any recession. Now remember, recession is the measurement from the gingival margin to the CEJ. Okay, so I'm going to go and say, okay, well, number 4 has recession. Now, this doesn't default, so you have to select the tooth, okay? So I'm going to say number 4 has 1, 2, 1, okay, of recession. And then maybe 6 has a 2, 2, 2. Remember, when you're documenting the recession, it needs to be on the full facial. It's not going to be just one reading, okay? You're going to do the distal line angle. You're going to do the direct, which would be the direct facial or buccal, and then you would do that mesial line angle. So every area that you are documenting recession will have three measures, okay? Then to do furcations only happen in the posterior, right? We know that. So I'm going to go to number 14, and I'm going to hit FG for furcation. Now you're going to see that I can highlight the areas of the tooth, okay? So when you are probing or using your neighbor's probe, you can document that maybe this had a class 2 furcation, the distal had a class 1, and the mesial had a class 1. On the lowers, you've got your buccal and lingual, so I'm going to highlight number 19. If I highlight this box, you can see it's on the buccal. I'm going to say, well, it probably has a 1, and then the lingual has a 2, okay? So you'll have to select the tooth with the furcation. Now say you are on 24, okay? And you're like, oh, I want to check furcation. Do you see how it's grayed out? That's because it's grayed out because this tooth would not have a furcation. So you have to select the tooth with bifurcation or trifurcation. And then you will notice that the FG will allow you to click it. So now you can go ahead and place your furcation involvement in there. For mobility, you're going to hit MOB. And any tooth can have mobility throughout the entire dentition. And how you're going to do that is I'm going to select 26, and I'm going to say it has class 2 furcation. Oh, sorry, class 2 mobility. You're going to notice that it's under mobility, okay? And then maybe number 24 has 1, number 23 has 1. So you're going to see that the mobility is being marked right here. For bleeding, you're going to see that there's a box right here for bleeding. So during your probings, you always want to probably probe about 2 to 3 teeth at a time and then see if there's any delayed bleeding. Spontaneous bleeding or delayed bleeding is something that we both want to document. So if it's spontaneous, then you can document it right away, but go back after, when you're done probing about 3 teeth and wait about 10 seconds to see, is there any bleeding that occurs? Then you have to select the teeth, okay? So maybe this, the distal buccal has bleeding, so I'm going to hit bleeding here, so you'll have to pick your sites. Now, if the mouth is completely 100% bleeding on probing, do not click every single box. Just go ahead and click right here next to bleeding all, and then the whole entire mouth will be bleeding. And sometimes it's kind of easier to put them all bleeding and then mark the ones that are not bleeding. So then you would highlight it and then hit bleeding, and then you would see that, the bubble will take that bleeding off. So that's one way to do it. If you accidentally hit all bleeding and you're like, oh my gosh, what do? I don't want to hit all those buttons. Just press none and it will take the bleeding off for you. It's the same thing with suppuration. Suppuration is also known as pus or exudate. This will usually be found in deeper pockets. So when you're probing, if you see some kind of a mucus coming out of the pocket and it's colored, if it's yellow or green or brown, then that would be suppuration, and that's the same thing. You would select your site and you would select suppuration, and then that will turn yellow. At this point, once everything is filled out, this is part of your initial assessment. Make sure that, you get these checked by your instructor. I hope this has helped. If you guys have any other questions, just let me know. Thank you so much.